All right, I'm with Matt Nolan here, our county auditor, and we are talking taxes. So I think, Matt, we just recently got a letter that was sent across to, all the Warren County residents. Can you talk a little bit about what's going on? And again, introduce yourself.
Sure, John. Thank you for having me again. I'm Matt Nolan. I'm the Warren County Auditor. I've been your auditor for the last 6 months. And the first thing I got to send you is a letter saying your property value went up. And I know in all your minds, I sent you a letter saying your property taxes went up. And that's what we're going to talk a little bit about is the difference there and how that all gets put together. You received a similar letter 6 years ago and a letter 3 years ago for those of you that lived in Warren County. And those letters showed that the property values had gone down. We all know about the recession. Values were decreasing across the county, and values did so when we made those adjustments. The great news is that values are recovering in Warren County. Property values have been steadily increasing over the last 3 years throughout most of the county, and we've seen that growth continuing in large numbers. So we're excited to see home values returning, to see equity returning to your home. But there are consequences to that in the tax base, and we'll talk a lot about how that happens. The one assurance I can make you at the start is that your taxes will not go up as much as your value went up. So if you received a 10% value increase, which was the average for the county, I can guarantee you your taxes are not going up 10%. They'll more likely go up 5 or 6%. And we'll talk about why that is. So rest assured you're not getting a 10% tax increase if your tax value went up 10%.
All right, great, Matt. So this went out to everybody. Is it commercial, residential, or is it just residential? Who did that go out
Sure.
to?
This value change just affected residential properties. We did analyze the commercial properties, but on a whole, the commercial properties in Warren County are not increasing or decreasing. They stayed flat. But residential values have gone up around the county over the last 3 years.
Okay, so Matt, as a homeowner here in Warren County, is it a good thing that my property values are going up?
Yeah, there's no doubt that this is a good thing. The increase in your property values show the strength of Warren County. Warren County is one of the fastest growing and one of the most desired places to live, not just in the state of Ohio, but around the country. And this letter, it really just reflects what we all know. Everybody wants to be in Warren County, and they're willing to pay to be here. So, for those of us that live here and want to stay here, it's great to see Warren County coming back to where it was 10 years ago, and to see the growth picking back up, to seeing people wanting to reinvest in our community. There's really no downside other than the small tax increase that we'll talk about.
Okay, so how does that work for me as an individual homeowner?
Yeah.
How does it work? How did you guys come up with a valuation?
The way we do this, and it's set by state law, is that we do a survey of every neighborhood in the county. And the county's broken up into over 100 neighborhoods. It's not necessarily just your subdivision. It's not just Crooked Tree, Foster's Point, or Countryside. It's the whole county is broken up into neighborhood identifications. And those can be all found on our website, what neighborhood you live in. We then do a survey of that neighborhood. And we say, how many homes have sold and what have they sold for? And we compare that to what we have those values at. So we'll use a made-up example. Let's say we have 10 sales in Countryside subdivision in Lebanon, and all 10 of those homes sold for $100,000. And all 10 of those homes are valued at $80,000. That means our average sale price is $100,000, our average value is $80,000. That's a ratio of 8 to 10, or 80%. By Ohio law, that ratio must at all times be above 90% and less than 100%. That means that we are required by law to move the values in Countryside subdivision up 12% to get from 80 to above that 90% threshold. And that's what we saw across the county when we did these surveys. Most subdivisions were in the 75 to 80% threshold of sale to value ratios. So we simply move up every house based on their whole subdivision. You can rest assured that you are not the only one in your subdivision that got that letter. Every single person in every neighborhood got the letter, and that number should be the same for every house in your subdivision. If your house went up 10%, your neighbor's house went up 10%, their neighbor's house went up 10% in each neighborhood. So that's the general process. It's not, nobody likes to see their value go up because they think their taxes are going up, but it is an equitable process that we spread around the county and around the neighborhoods so that everyone's seeing the same increases.
And again, this is a state law.
Completely required by state law, and it's been the same state law for over 35 years, probably longer than that. But that's been the way it's been done. Back in the 90s, every 3 years you'd get a notice saying your value was going up 10%. There was continuous going. We just haven't seen it in so long that people don't really remember that's how it is, because we haven't seen an increase in values in over a decade in Warren County. But that's the way it's been for as long as we've had this system.
How do short sales and foreclosures and bank-owned properties impact in those numbers? If your subdivision, for example, had, 8 out of those 10 sales were all, foreclosures and short sales and things like that, how does that impact that valuation?
That's a great question, John. Foreclosure sales by law are taken out of the equation. They do not directly impact the equation. Anything that says U.S. Bank, LCNB, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac are not allowed to be included when we do that calculation. Short sales, we don't know that a short sale is occurring. The only way people that know a short sale is occurring are the individuals involved in it. The government never finds that out, so those get included in. But bank sales are not included. What I will say are 2 points. We are seeing very few foreclosures in Warren County anymore. The number has plummeted dramatically, and with the exception of a couple pockets, we're not seeing them at all. So foreclosures are not greatly impacting the overall market. If we do see a subdivision where there's 10 sales and 8 of them are bank sales, we'll absolutely take that into consideration, and we did in the 9 and 12 updates. But in 2015, there are very few subdivisions. In fact, I don't believe any subdivisions where that's occurring anymore. So the foreclosure sales do occur occasionally, but they're so rare and such a small part of the overall market that they're not impacting the sales of other homes the way they did in 2009 and 2012.
Okay, great, wonderful. Okay, so how does the tax work? I mean, so I know there's a valuation increase. So the first thing we've been talking about is the valuation increase of your property. But then I think the concern is my taxes are going up.
That's right. Really, I mean, we spend a lot of time talking about value, and that's what I do, and that's my job. But what people care about is their taxes, and I get that, and that's what I care about. I live in Lebanon. I'm a resident. I pay taxes. My value went up. I'm going to pay more taxes. Taxes do not go up at the same rate as values do. Taxes are based on mill rates that were voted on by the people. The people of Warren County in each subdivision have decided what they're going to pay. When your school puts a levy on, when your township, when your city puts a levy on, you get a chance to vote and you decide what your taxes are going to be. Most of those levies that you vote on adjust with the value. So as values go up, rates come down, evening out what you pay in taxes. There are some levies, the original levies that were created in the 1930s that you didn't get a vote on, those stay the same no matter what. So as your value goes up, that rate stays the same, and you are going to pay more on those levies. Those account for a small percentage of the overall levies that exist. So that's why I can guarantee you that as your value goes up, your taxes will not go up close to how much your value went up. And in most cases, it's half. In some cases, it'll be less than that. So you can be assured that in residential cases, your value increase will not match your tax increase. This will not create a large boom for anyone. Like as I said, the rates are coming down, so your school district, who gets the majority of your tax money, the schools on average get 65 to 70% of your tax dollars, they are not going to get a huge amount of money. The county gets 3% overall of the tax revenue that comes in as a result of property taxes. So if the overall taxes in this county are increasing 5% for residential properties, and the county is getting 3% of a 5% increase, you can tell overall it's less than 1% increase in county revenue. So this makes a very small increase for any of the local entities and virtually no increase at all for county government.
How does it work, millage? We've had that conversation before, but I think some people are confused by millage and don't understand millage. So could you take a quick snapshot and explain millage?
Millage is the single most complicated thing I've ever dealt with in my life. I'm a lawyer. I'm certified in doing a lot of this appraisal type stuff. This is my expertise, and it is complicated. But millage is the basis for how we calculate taxes in the state of Ohio. Not all states do it that way, but we do. And a mill is 1/1000th of a dollar, and that's how we take your value, we multiply it by 35%, and then we multiply that by the number of mills to get your overall tax rate. So when you vote on a levy, let's say you've got a fire levy for 3 mills, that's up. That means it's 3/1000th of a dollar that you'll pay for every dollar of value, assessed value, that's on your property. So that's the general way that millage works. It's very complicated. It adjusts downwards as property values go up. Like I said, when property values went down, it adjusted up. It did the reverse thing. Mills went up. So you probably didn't see a tax decrease very much when we were lowering your values. You wouldn't have, because the millage was going back up. Now that you're seeing a property tax value increase, you are not going to see a large tax increase because that millage is all going to adjust downward.
Okay, so let's say somebody wants to contest their value. They think the valuation that you sent them is wrong. They think their property's worth a lot less. Or they may think their property's worth a lot more.
Right.
I've had clients that actually done that, but let's say they think it's less. So what do they need to do?
Yeah, if you think your property value that we've sent you is too high, there's two processes you can follow through. The first one is simple. You call my office and you set up an appointment with our appraisal staff, and they'll just explain what I've just explained to you of how we did it, and look at your individual subdivision and say, in Crooked Tree subdivision, we had 20 sales. We were at a ratio of 75%. I'm making this number up. So we've got to increase your value by 15%. They'll explain that all to you. You can point out to them, well, my house has all these oddities, and you may be able to get your value adjusted. I don't recommend that if you don't have a lot of information. The other process is a formal process. It's called the Board of Revision. We accept Board of Revision complaints every year from January 1st to March 31st. Those are firm deadlines, January 1st, March 31st. State law requires that we stay within those guidelines. And what you would do is come in and submit evidence that our value is wrong. We get values wrong. We have 95,000 parcels of real estate in Warren County. We use averages, we use assumptions to try to value all of them. It would be impossible to do each one individually. By definition, anybody that's worked in statistics or averages, there has to be outliers. And if you happen to be one of those outliers, we welcome you. Come in, bring that information, and we'll look at that and adjust that value appropriately if the information is. One thing to remember, my job is to be as fair and equitable as possible. If I lower your value, by definition, I am raising everyone else's taxes. I don't take that lightly. So anybody that comes in and shows their value must bring in good evidence to show that we have the value wrong. I have no problem admitting that I'm wrong when we are, but you do have to provide evidence. What I ask everyone to do is twofold. First, sit down with your spouse, sit down with whoever you make decisions with, and say, what would I sell my house for? If we were going to list it on the market for a reasonable 60, 90 days, what would I get for my house? What would I accept? And if that number is what we sent you, or it's something higher than that, then I understand not liking that your value increased, but to be frank, you're stuck with your value. If on the other hand, you do that analysis and you say, I think I get a lot less. Matt's got it valued at $250. I don't think I get more than $2.25 for this property. Then we need to have that discussion. And what I strongly recommend you do is talk to one of your local realtors. This is what realtors do for a living. They're experts at it. And get them to go through and give you some comps to what they think they would sell your house for. Realtors have no interest in what the tax dollars in. They simply have an interest in what the actual value, what your sale price would be. We have great realtors in Warren County, and they'd be happy to do that for you for free, often with the hope of getting your business in the future. So I encourage you to go to them and see what they say your house would be. If you come in with a legitimate realtor's assessment telling us that we've got your property way overvalued, I guarantee that we're going to sit down and look at that, and in most cases make adjustments to it.
Well, Matt, sometimes I get the question about Zillow and Zillow Evaluations, and somebody comes in and says, okay, my Zillow evaluation is $225, and you have it listed at $250. How does that work?
Zillow is a starting off point and nothing more. Zillow has very little information about your community, your subdivision. I live in your community, your subdivision. My appraisers live in our community. We know far more about what is actually the values here. Your local realtors know far more. Zillow is a company in Seattle, Washington that pulls random information from websites and makes a large number of assumptions based on that without any information as to what's going on in that school district, what's going on with levies. Zillow is nothing more than an overview of the area, and they cannot at all drill down into the details of your home or your subdivision. The auditor's office can be contacted literally any time of the day. You can do so during working hours at our office line, 695-1235. Visit our website, wcauditor.org. You can email us. My email is mnolan, Nolan, @wcauditor.org. or you can call me directly. If you want to call outside of office hours, my cell phone number, you can always call me 267-6843. The people of the auditor's office, and myself especially, we work for the people of Warren County. That's who we're employed by. That's who we answer to. So we can be reached anytime. You can call me. I'm your employee. So call me 267-6843. I'd be happy to answer your questions, any concerns that you have about property values or property taxes.